Thank you very much for joining us for this very important meeting. I would like to welcome you all to this second Global Authors Meeting for the Global Environment Outlook. It's an extremely important meeting for moving the document forward, and we thank you very much for being able to attend. I know that some of the authors could not attend for various reasons, but it's very nice to have such a large group of people to be able to move the document forward here. And as the co-chairs will highlight later on in the different sessions, we have quite a lot of work to do. We are very pleased to be hosted this week at the beautiful facilities here at the United Nations Conference Center, and also for the kind offer of the Royal Thai government for co-hosting this meeting. And we are very pleased about that. These important collaborations help us all to do our work better and will result in better analysis of the current state of the environment, the effectiveness of our policy responses, and the prospects for improving our environment in the future. We are very pleased to have a group of distinguished guests this morning to launch our discussions this week. Our head table includes representatives from the Royal Thai Government, the UN Environment Regional Office for Asia and the Pacific, the UN Environment Head Office, and also our distinguished co-chairs for the Global Environment Outlook process. I would like to begin our events this morning by asking Dr. Wijarn Simachaya, Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Natural Resources and the Environment from the Royal Thai Government, to say a few words of welcome.
Sawadee krap. Good morning, everyone. Dr. Dazen Shering, Regional Director and Representative for Asia and the Pacific, Professor Jiang Liu, Chief Scientist of UN Environment, Professor Porn Ekin, and Professor Sujita Gupta, co-chair of the 6th Global Environment Outlook, Mr. Pierre Boru, that's the moderator, Excellency, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It's my great pleasure to welcome all of you on behalf of Royal Thai Government and the Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment to the second order meeting of the 6th Global Environment Outlook. GEO is an important UN environment publication that helps inform government on the state of the global environment policy response in addressing major environmental challenges and the environmental trend and projection for air, climate, water, land, and biota. We appreciate the delivering of GEO-6 regional assessment for Asia and the Pacific during UNIA 2 in May 2016. It had been developed through a new innovative approach using e-book format with enhanced the user experience and make the scientific findings more attractive and understandable, and also allow directing to the social media platform. All 6 regional assessment will fit into a global analysis to create a comprehensive GEO-6 project. I would like to take this opportunity to congratulate you all on the success of the first order meeting held in last February in Italy. The second order meeting will focus on addressing comments from the review period of the first order draft and allow for extensive progress of preparation for the second order draft. This time it is our privilege to be co-host of the second order meeting in Bangkok and to welcome you all experts around the world to Bangkok, Thailand. As you can see from the draft agenda, this meeting was designed for you to interact and discuss by pairing group of authors among cross-cutting issues across 5 environmental themes, including air, climate, water for both freshwater and marine and ocean, land, and biota. This would facilitate a coherent analysis of this issue across environment theme and create a direct link with the Sustainable Development Goal. Thailand's effort is conserving natural resources and environment through implementation of long-term strategic plan and establishment of management mechanism have contributed towards sustainable development of the country. Environmental issues and challenges are addressed in various national and sectoral strategic plans, including the 20-year National Strategy, the National Economic and Social Development Plan, the Environmental Quality Management Plan, the Climate Change Master Plan, and the 20-year Energy Efficiency Development Plan, the Master Plan for Integrated Biodiversity Management, the Integrated Waste Management for the country, Pollution Control Strategy and Action Plan, and also the National Disaster Prevention and Mitigation. The State of Environment of Thailand is published annually. The report also prepared using the PSIR approach, which is in line with the GEO process. Thailand State of Environment 2016 show that Thailand is vulnerable to the climate change like most countries in Asia and Pacific region, as well as other regions around the world. Natural disasters such as landslide, sea level rise, coastal erosion, flood and drought phenomenon are becoming more frequent, and this increased vulnerability of people and ecosystem, particularly those people who live in a high-risk area. In addition, it is a great opportunity that experts from Thailand can also join the GEO-6 process, where they can review and comment on the report. I myself have involved in the advisory body as a member of the high-level group at the early stage for 2 times. I also greatly appreciate the comprehensive process in producing the remarkable report, and await to see final report, hopefully with high quality, scientific credibility, and innovative policy recommendations to be adopted at the 4th session of Junior in 2019. During your stay here in Bangkok, I hope that you will have an opportunity to look around and explore our marvelous capital city and culture. I wish you have a pleasant stay in Bangkok and Thailand. Last but not least, I wish you all have a fruitful and interactive discussion on the second draft of the first 9 chapters of the GEO-6 report over the next 5 days. Thank you very much. สวัสดีครับ
Good morning. Dr. Vijan Simachaya, Permanent Secretary of the Royal Government of Thailand, co-chairs Professor Ekins and Professor Gupta, colleagues Jian Liu and Pierre, expert guests, colleagues. I'm also very pleased to join Dr. Vijan and Pierre in welcoming you on behalf of UN Environment to the 2nd Global Authors Meeting for Development of the Global Environment Outlook. And I'm also very pleased to be able to host you in the beautiful city of Bangkok. The 6th edition of the Global Environment Outlook was mandated by the first session of the UN Environment Assembly. And at the historic assembly in 2014, member countries asked us to explore innovative ways of communicating scientific information to citizens, policymakers, the media, and research community in order to support informed decision-making at all levels. I believe the preparation of the regional assessments, which you have all contributed to, have responded to this call for innovation. I've had the pleasure of being able to introduce many global environment outlooks in different capitals, and countries always want to know where the regions fit in the global environment outlook. The information analysis generated are a rich foundation for the global assessment. The regional assessments were released at the Second UN Environment Assembly in June last year and informed the Assembly's policy dialogue. In addition, the information and analysis of the regional assessment for Asia and Pacific will be used to inform our upcoming Ministerial Summit on Environment for Asia Pacific this year. In the first week of September, 5th to 8th, we will be convening the Environment Minister Forum in preparation for the UN Environmental Assembly and the Ministerial Conference on Environment and Development, which is organized by the Economic Social Commission for Asia Pacific. The voices and the deliberations at the Regional Ministerial Summit, we hope, will be taken to the UN Environmental Assembly later this year in December. Asia Pacific have experienced transformative changes over the past decades, as concluded by the regional assessment. We're talking about economic growth, industrialization, urbanization. But we're also looking at many social and environmental challenges associated with these changes and trends. Increasing middle class, associated consumption needs, increasing growth of greenhouse gas emissions, loss of tropical forests and natural habitats. And we're looking at environmental changes that negatively impact the day-to-day health and livelihoods of people in our region. The need for rigorous environmental assessments are therefore critical if we are to ensure that Asia Pacific's economic engine that is driving change in the region and indeed the world also results in sustainability and development that supports human well-being. Promoting access to credible environmental information is an important part of our work. Every forum that we've been to lately, whether it's at the national or regional level, we hear from countries that they need access to information. They need access to information that impacts air, water, soil. They're looking at pollution. We're finding that governments and intergovernmental bodies take seriously the findings of the regional assessments. We're also being asked to present the key findings. We've presented the key findings at the Chinese ASEAN Environment Center to inform their work, as well as ASEAN member states. Member countries and intergovernmental groups are also asking us more and more, how can the work of and the important information that is generated, how can that impact and guide the work that we're doing? So we need to find a link of the rich assessments and to find a way that they're actual policy applications. While we know that the Global Environmental Outlook continues to be an important document for policymakers, but there is a need for the key messages to reach a much wider audience. We're looking at the need to get support from the public to advocate for change, governments to create an enabling environment, and private sector driving change through investment and innovation. The important research and assessments that we do must not stay within our community. It must go beyond our community. I know there are very important outreach events that are planned. There's a stakeholder dialogue to be conducted by the Outlook's expert group to help inform the public about the global assessment, as well as to solicit inputs and expectations to enrich the assessment outcome. But we're also trying to explore innovative ways in UN Environment to disseminate the findings of the report. So in the coming days, we will look to you to share ideas on how we can disseminate the findings of the Outlook report more widely. How can we make the key messages that are here, how can we deliver them in an easy, understandable way to people who need to hear it? We're not only talking about policymakers, businesses, civil society, and the public. Finally, when I look across the room and I look at the eminent authors, I'm convinced that your deliberations here will strengthen the analysis and conclusions of the 6th edition of the Global Environment Outlook. And I really look forward to your deliberations and thinking in how we can take the rich work that we do here to the public, to civil society, to intergovernmental organizations, to national institutions. Thank you.
First of all, I would like to extend our deep appreciation to the Royal Government of to the Royal Thai government for co-hosting us, and also our colleagues in Asia Pacific for all the hard work that has been put in preparation for this important meeting. And it is always an honor and a pleasure to come back to Bangkok and Thailand to enjoy the land of beauty and smell. I would also like to thank our respective authors, co-led by Professor Atkins and Professor Gupta. It is your determination and dedication which made the GEO process scientifically credible, and its key findings the most useful evidence for informed decisions on the global environment. Your environment has in the past co-sponsored or sponsored 3 flagship assessments: the IPCC, the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the Global Environmental Outlook, and the Intergovernmental Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services, to fulfill its mandate given by the UN General Assembly to put the world environment under review. Each one of them serves intergovernmental and governmental decision-making process. And for instance, you may ask the question why the Paris Agreement, in the Paris Agreement, the parties to the UNFCCC agreed to limit the temperature increase under 2 degrees Celsius above, toward the end of this century, above the pre-industrial levels. Why is that? So it is the IPCC which analyzed 900 scenarios and presented several representative concentration pathways to the parties, and out of which, after many rounds of negotiations, if you remember from not far away from Copenhagen back to 2009 to Paris, it was really a kind of a turbulent up and down period of negotiations for that 2 degrees Celsius. So it was agreed, and IPCC made the case to the policymakers. So similarly, the GEO process in the past has produced 5 assessment reports. So each one of them served as the most authentic and comprehensive evidence for global, regional, and national decision-making process on the environment. And let me pay tribute to the endeavor of generations of authors from the science community. Well, what makes the Global Environment Look, the 6th edition, different from previous assessments is that it has been going with the winds, trying to meeting the ever-increasing demands from different stakeholders. Last year, all regional reports have been produced and launched to meet the needs of all regions. Now it has to assist governments to face the challenges of widening gap between fast-growing economy and population, and depleting natural resources, and degrading environmental capacity. And that gap is ever widening. So how can we bridge it and narrow it down? So it will also help keep tracking the progress of the Sustainable Development Goals implementation. So I talk about the 2 degrees Celsius for the Paris Agreement and this linked with the IPCC work. But let me push you a little bit. How in your GEO-6 report can provide the sort of hard evidence and reach out to the intergovernmental implementation or government implementation process of the Sustainable Development Goals. There are 17 of them. So how many goals are we supporting, and what kind of hard evidence you can give to help them to find the right solutions? So obviously, this meeting is very important since it will evolve from the process to substance, meaning that we need to pave the way for more quality controlled second order draft and with new dimensions of policy effectiveness and law outlooks. So you have a daunting task ahead of you in the next few days. I'm sorry. So looking into the future, we're also thinking intensively how better we could provide our services for better informed decisions of different stakeholders, the policy community, the business community, the youth, and the general public. It is in this context that we are going to organize also in the interview of this authors meeting, Outlook's ground truthing workshop to gather your innovative ideas. And this is going to be on Thursday, 25th of May. And also later in that day, we will also spend approximately 2 hours to touch base on the development of a new science strategy for UN environment. Of course, in that strategy, the GEO process is still our flagship activities. So I want to hear from you. How would you like us? It is not our strategy, it's your strategy. The strategy that owned by government, owned by the science community. So you can tell me, as chief scientist of the environment, how we're going to go about it. Of course, this is time is limited, so we couldn't talk about everything, but it's the sort of first touch base to kick off the process, and we engage you further over the development of that strategy. So ladies and gentlemen, UN Environment is committed to working with the whole science community, not only to identify the challenges and issues, to tell the government how serious the problems are, but also to identify the solutions, which is the key, which is what the government is really looking for.
We know it is an extraordinarily ambitious task on which we are engaged, because this is no ordinary report. It is obviously a successor to the previous GEO reports, but as I will make clear, it comes at a time and in a context where we have a signal opportunity to do something different and to make an impact. You know, we know, and Pierre later is going to put a slide up that encapsulates the task. We need to work through the introduction, the drivers to the current contexts, the 5 great environmental themes, the 10 cross-cutting issues that will weave through those themes, and then the context of equity and economy, marrying those two ideas rather than allowing them to be in conflict, as they often seem to be, in order to produce a vision and an agenda for action in the future, with chapters on policy effectiveness and on outlooks. And I guess we all know that the outlook for not doing something different is a pretty stark one. We can't look forward to the nice business as usual scenarios of 3% global growth for the rest of the century unless we do something different. And at the moment, we're not doing something different. We're keeping down the track that we have become accustomed to. But the options that we have in front of us are extraordinary and they give us extraordinary opportunities. They give us the opportunity for the first time, really, to generate an agenda and action for inclusive growth and sustainable development, and I want to just dwell a little on that. Because our task, and this is a task that no previous global environmental outlook has undertaken, we haven't had this opportunity before. The report will be presented to the world's environment ministers at the UN Environment Assembly in 2019. We know that these guys are very busy. We know that they're subject to multiple competing agendas. But our task is to give them the inspiration, the vision, and the practical programs of action that will enable them to go back to their governments and do something different on Monday morning, and persuade their ministerial colleagues also to do something different. Why do we imagine that we might succeed in this historic task? In my view, it's because of the SDGs. I think our task is to, in our Outlooks chapter, is to encourage people to imagine in 2030 that we have met the SDGs. Imagine what the world would be like if those 17 aspirations in 2030 are met. The world community has adopted those goals because it perceives that they are achievable, but we know that they are also a great challenge. Of course, lots of the elements of those SDGs are not new. We know that health and education and gender issues have been at the heart of development progress for the last decades, and we know that a lot of progress has been made, so that we know what to do. We have an interim opportunity, the UNEA later this year, to present a report on pollution, which is kind of a new dimension for those perceptions, and we can emphasize how the climate change and energy agendas give us an opportunity to reduce air pollution and achieve enormous increases in human well-being and health thereby. How chemicals and waste, two of the other cross-cutting issues that you're all working on, also need to be addressed through land and ocean pollution, and many of you will be aware of the recent paper on Henderson Island, an uninhabited island in the South Pacific that is now being classed as the most polluted island on Earth, with 40 million pieces of plastic waste washed up from the sea on its previously pristine beaches. Now, come on, guys, we can do better than that. We are Homo sapiens. After all, we are not a bunch of stupid, wasteful idiots, which is how that sort of outcome makes us appear. But the really exciting part of this agenda, and I speak to you as an economist, as I think many of you know, is that there's a real economic opportunity in all this. The economic opportunity of resource efficiency, of the circular economy. On the flight here, I was reading the report of the Business and Sustainable Development Commission, a bunch of eminent people who've looked in detail at the economic opportunities offered by this agenda. They identify business worth $12 trillion in just 4 big sectors: food and agriculture, cities, energy and materials, health and well-being, absolutely issues on which we are focused in our report, The Global Environmental Outlook. Governments, too, are beginning to wake up to this. The Finnish government is organizing the World Circular Economy Forum in Helsinki next month. But generally, politicians and many business people and decision makers do not realize the opportunity that is staring them in the face to address these environmental issues and at the same time engender a new economic model and a new economic opportunity. And from my perspective, at least, our job is to drop the scales from their eyes, to show them that this agenda is not just ours, a bunch of environmentalists, it is their agenda. This is why they went into politics, this is why they became business people, and this is why they work their socks off in non-governmental organizations. So this is our task, and it's a huge responsibility for us to get it right, but it's also a huge privilege to be part of this process at this pivotal time. When we were discussing this last night with Pierre, he stressed that this is a meeting for doing, and in our case that means writing, and not just thinking and talking, though we'd better do a bit of thinking as well. So let's just do it. Thank you very much.
This report must really stand out amongst all the global assessments that are our competitors right now. And the reason why it must stand out as an exceptional report is not just because all of us here are brilliant and dedicated, but also because if we are to address the ecological issues in an integrated, interrelated, and indivisible manner, we have to do it convincingly and in a scientifically authoritative manner, but also through a narrative that communicates not only to politicians, to the people on the street, but also to the skeptics. And as you know, we have a number of heads of state that are quite skeptical about environmental issues. Since we are in the beautiful country of Thailand, in Southeast Asia, I would like to make a key point regarding the role of the GEO in relation to developing countries. As you probably know, since the end of World War II, the developing countries have been negotiating within the General Assembly for a right to development for individuals, peoples, but possibly also for countries. However, this right to development was reframed within the Climate Convention as a right to sustainable development. But there has not been that much discussion about the right to sustainable development. In fact, if you read the literature about the right to development, it's all about talking about economic issues and about the lives of people, but not so much about the environment. And I think it is in this bigger context that it's really important that the GEO makes a convincing case that the unlimited resource extraction and ecological damage that we are causing not only harms the long-term development prospects of the developing countries, but seriously affects the short-term health prospects of its people and hence their productivity, that it is vital to maintain the ecosystem services of nature in order to ensure economic well-being and political and social stability, that we may be able to then convince developing countries that their development prospects are not hampered by rules regarding their environment, but rather that the rules regarding their environment enhance their development prospects. This is also a response to what Ms. Shearing said earlier, that it's important to get a storyline that even developing countries can deal with. In the ultimate analysis, of course, every single country in the world has to work towards sustainable development. And that basically means that we all have to live within our ecological means, and those means are quite limited. This also implies that it's not only important to ensure that our report shows that there is environmental policy with a good track record in specific countries, that such policy is based on solid science and scientific assessments, but to also see how these environmental policies can be integrated into our development plans. So they're not just add-ons at the end of the process. So to repeat, we need the science and we need the narrative as part of our theory of change to be able to communicate this effectively to all people, even to skeptics. On a practical note, I note that we do not have as many developing country colleagues as we would like to have in this GEO report, and so it's even more important that all of us do take into account critical developing country issues, use as much developing country research as possible, and try to see that we really make sure that the report covers all countries in the world in order to be truly global and to ensure the scientific quality of our report.